We live in a world where being nice is praised, where respect and kindness are considered the ultimate weapons of attraction. But here's the shocking truth. If you are always polite, always accommodating, always putting her needs above your own, you're not building attraction, you're building comfort. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal why being too nice can make women lose interest, how it silently kills your chances of meaningful connection, and what you can do instead to become genuinely magnetic. By the end of this speech, you'll see relationships, attraction, and respect in a completely new light. So pay attention, because your love life might just depend on it. When we talk about the idea that nice guys finish last, it's not just some cliche phrase thrown around in dating advice forums. It's a reflection of a deeper truth about human psychology and attraction. Being nice is often interpreted as being predictable, safe, and easy. And while those are qualities that make someone dependable, they are not the qualities that ignite passion, curiosity, or desire. Women, like everyone else, are drawn to energy, challenge, and confidence, not to the comfort of someone who is always agreeable. Think about it. If someone never challenges you, never surprises you, never pushes you slightly out of your comfort zone, their presence becomes background noise rather than something you actively crave. There is a subtle difference between being kind and being nice in the sense of always placating, always saying yes, always avoiding conflict at all costs. When a man behaves in this overly accommodating way, it signals that he prioritizes approval over authenticity. He is constantly molding himself to match expectations rather than expressing his own desires, passions, and intentions. And that lack of self-assuredness can, over time, lower attraction without him even realizing it. It's not about being rude or disrespectful. It's about understanding that attraction is often built on a foundation of strength, confidence, and presence, qualities that cannot exist if every interaction is filtered through a lens of fear or the need to be liked. The psychology behind this is simple yet profound. Humans are wired to respond to challenge and intrigue. When someone is constantly agreeable and overly nice, there is no tension, no emotional spark, and no sense of anticipation. Attraction is not born from comfort. It is born from energy, unpredictability, and the interplay of confidence with vulnerability in the right measure. Being too nice often masks insecurity, even when it comes across as generosity or thoughtfulness. And insecurity is rarely appealing because it signals a lack of personal direction or self-assurance. On the other hand, men who demonstrate confidence, who have clear boundaries, and who operate from a place of self-respect automatically elevate their value in social and romantic contexts. Women notice these subtle cues, how a man carries himself, how he reacts under pressure, how he maintains his life and passions independently of theirs. The nice guy approach, where every word and gesture is calculated to impress or appease, strips away these cues and replaces them with predictability and passivity. It communicates that your value is contingent on approval, which is fundamentally different from communicating that your value is inherent and non-negotiable. Over time, this pattern compounds. Nice guys are often overlooked for romantic attention because their behavior does not generate emotional excitement, does not challenge or intrigue, and does not convey strength of character. They may be appreciated for their kindness, but appreciation alone does not equate to attraction, and it certainly does not lead to passion or long-term romantic desire. Being nice in excess often results in relationships where one is respected but not desired, valued but not prioritized, and loved for convenience rather than connection. It is a difficult reality to accept, especially for those who equate decency with desirability, but understanding this principle is the first step in transforming one's approach. It requires a shift from being externally motivated to being internally grounded, from seeking validation to generating self-respect, and from prioritizing approval to prioritizing authenticity. Many men make the critical mistake of confusing respect with approval, and this misunderstanding quietly sabotages their relationships and the way women perceive them. Being respectful is about acknowledging another person's humanity, valuing their opinions, and treating them with dignity. But seeking approval is entirely different. It is about bending yourself to meet someone else's expectations, constantly asking if you're enough, and hoping that your actions will earn their validation. There is a subtle but profound difference here, and women instinctively sense the distinction. When a man constantly seeks approval, it signals that his worth is not inherent but dependent on someone else's perception of him. And that dynamic, no matter how polite or nice it seems, erodes attraction. Women, just like men, are naturally drawn to strength and authenticity, not to people who shapeshift to please them. Approval seeking may seem harmless at first. It might even feel like being attentive or caring, but in reality, it creates a power imbalance. When a man is always agreeable, always prioritizing her wants over his own, it unconsciously communicates a lack of boundaries and self-confidence. He becomes predictable, easy to read, and most importantly, easy to take for granted. Respect, on the other hand, communicates that you value yourself as much as you value her, and this balance is magnetic. When a man knows his worth, honors his boundaries, and maintains his personal life and passions, he naturally commands attention without ever trying to force it. This confusion between respect and approval often starts early, with societal conditioning that tells men to always be polite, accommodating, and self-sacrificing in order to be good. The problem is that this approach teaches men to operate externally rather than internally. They are trained to measure success in relationships by how much they can please, rather than by how much they can show up as their authentic, confident selves. The result is that they fall into patterns of over-explaining, over-apologizing, and over-committing to meet expectations that may not even be fair or reasonable. This behavior might earn them temporary gratitude or admiration, but it rarely produces genuine attraction or desire. Women are perceptive. They notice the subtle energy behind every action. A man who is constantly trying to be liked subconsciously signals neediness, and neediness is rarely compelling. True respect, however, is effortless. It requires self-awareness, confidence, and integrity. It is shown not by bending over backward to earn affection, but by living with purpose, making decisions that align with your values, and honoring both your needs and hers in balance. When a man transitions from seeking approval to demanding his own respect, the shift is transformative. He becomes decisive without being domineering, firm without being harsh, and present without being clingy. Women notice this shift immediately because it resonates on a deep instinctual level. Respect communicates value. Approval communicates dependence. And dependence, no matter how polite or nice it appears, almost always diminishes attraction over time. This is why men who master the art of respect over approval consistently experience higher levels of connection, desire, and meaningful engagement. It is not about being rude or selfish. It is about aligning actions with self-worth, prioritizing authenticity, and understanding that true attraction grows from strength, not from constantly bending to someone else's expectations. One of the most misunderstood aspects of attraction is the role of boundaries, and yet it is one of the most powerful tools a man can have. Many men think that being desirable or good in a relationship means being constantly available, endlessly accommodating, and putting the other person's desires above their own. The truth is the opposite. Boundaries are magnetic. When you clearly define what you will and won't accept in your life and in your relationships, you immediately communicate self-respect, strength, and a level of confidence that cannot be faked. Women, like all humans, are drawn to individuals who operate from a place of clarity and purpose. When you let every request slide, when you never say no, and when you overextend yourself to keep someone else happy, you unintentionally communicate that your time, energy, and desires are negotiable. And this erodes respect. Boundaries are not about creating distance or being cold. They are about defining your space, protecting your energy, and honoring your life first. A man who sets boundaries is not only attractive, but he is also respected because he demonstrates that his presence is earned, that his attention is valuable, and that he will not compromise his integrity to please others. Understanding the power of boundaries begins with self-awareness. You have to know who you are, what you stand for, and what you will not tolerate. This is not just about saying no to big things. It's about the small, everyday decisions that communicate your value. It's in the way you manage your time, the way you respond to requests, and the way you enforce your principles consistently. When a man allows people to overstep, even in minor ways, he sets a precedent that can carry into his romantic relationships. Women are instinctively attuned to these patterns. They notice whether a man is decisive or deferential, whether he prioritizes himself or constantly prioritizes others, and whether he has a life and vision that exist independently of theirs. Boundaries are attractive because they signal that a man is in control of his life, that he is not easily manipulated or swayed, and that he can stand firm in his values without losing connection. Moreover, boundaries are a form of communication that transcends words. You do not have to explain or justify yourself constantly. Your boundaries speak louder than explanations ever could. When you are consistent, you create a sense of reliability and predictability in your principles while simultaneously maintaining mystery and intrigue in your personality. People are naturally drawn to individuals who are self-contained and who exude a quiet confidence that comes from knowing who they are. Boundaries also serve as a protective mechanism, not just against disrespect, but against emotional exhaustion, frustration, and resentment. Men who fail to establish boundaries often find themselves frustrated in relationships, feeling unappreciated, taken for granted, or even manipulated. Boundaries prevent this by ensuring that interactions occur on terms that are mutually respectful and aligned with one's values. It is also important to understand that boundaries are not about control. They are about alignment. When a man clearly communicates his limits and expectations, he invites relationships that are compatible and meaningful while naturally filtering out those that are not. This selectivity is inherently attractive because it demonstrates discernment, decisiveness, and purpose. Women respect men who respect themselves, and respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. Establishing boundaries does not require arrogance or aggression. It requires courage, clarity, and a commitment to living authentically. The power of boundaries lies in their ability to create balance. They allow a man to be kind and generous without being exploited, to care without overextending, and to engage without losing himself. Many men believe that being courteous, polite, and endlessly accommodating is the ultimate way to win a woman's heart. But in reality, Courtesy alone cannot create attraction. Courtesy is appreciated, but it does not inspire desire, intrigue, or passion. Confidence, on the other hand, is magnetic. Confidence communicates self-worth, direction, and emotional stability, while excessive courtesy often signals the opposite: uncertainty, a need for approval, and a lack of personal authority. When a man prioritizes being polite over being confident, he sends subtle messages that he is unsure of his own value, that he is willing to compromise himself to please others, and that he may not stand firm in moments of challenge or tension. Women, like everyone, are instinctively drawn to individuals who embody certainty, decisiveness, and strength, because these traits signal reliability, leadership, and stability. Confidence is not about arrogance or dominance. It is about showing up fully as yourself without bending or apologizing for your presence, energy, or desires. It is about understanding that your value is inherent, not contingent on approval, and that your actions should reflect self-respect first and concern for others second. Confidence manifests in countless subtle ways that are more impactful than words. It is in the way a man carries himself, in the calmness of his voice, in the decisiveness of his choices, and in the consistency of his actions. Courtesy, while socially admirable, cannot replace these foundational elements because it is external and transactional. It focuses on what you give rather than who you are. When a man is confident, he creates a sense of security and attraction simultaneously. His presence is noticeable, not because he asks for attention, but because his energy demands it. Confidence creates intrigue because it shows that he is comfortable with himself, independent of external validation. Courtesy without confidence, however, can feel performative. It can come across as trying too hard, as if the man is negotiating for affection rather than naturally commanding it. Women notice these subtleties instinctively. They feel the difference between a man who is strong in his core and a man who is polite out of fear or obligation. This difference is often the deciding factor between casual interest and deep attraction. Another crucial aspect of confidence over courtesy is the ability to take risks and assert boundaries without guilt. A confident man does not over-apologize, does not hesitate to voice his opinion, and does not avoid uncomfortable situations simply to maintain likability. Courtesy, when taken too far, often leads to avoidance of confrontation, over-accommodation, and a tendency to suppress one's authentic self. In contrast, confidence allows a man to navigate relationships with honesty, integrity, and presence, creating a dynamic that is both exciting and stable. Women are naturally drawn to this energy because it signals a man who is not easily swayed, who values himself, and who brings a sense of reliability and strength to interactions. Confidence communicates that you are secure enough in who you are to engage fully and authentically without needing to manipulate, overplease, or overcompensate. Ultimately, prioritizing confidence over courtesy is about internal alignment. It is about understanding that attraction is not built on politeness alone, but on the energy and presence a man brings into a room. It is about showing up as someone who is self-assured, passionate, and consistent in values, decisions, and actions. Courtesy can open doors, but confidence keeps them open. Courtesy can be noticed, but confidence is remembered. The more a man invests in building true confidence through self-awareness, personal growth, and purposeful action, the more magnetic he becomes, not only to women, but to everyone around him. Confidence is the silent language of value, the energy that draws people in without explanation, and the foundation on which real attraction is built. One of the most common mistakes men make in relationships and dating is over-explaining themselves. It might seem harmless, even thoughtful, to clarify every action, justify every decision, or constantly reassure someone about your intentions. Yet this behavior often communicates insecurity, a lack of confidence, and dependence on external validation. Over-explaining is rooted in fear, the fear that if someone doesn't understand you perfectly, if they misinterpret your actions, or if they think less of you, your value will diminish in their eyes. This is not just a minor social habit. It is a deep psychological pattern that undermines attraction and erodes respect. Women, like everyone else, are drawn to men who are self-assured, decisive, and comfortable in their own skin. When a man feels compelled to explain, defend, or justify his choices, it signals the opposite, that he is uncertain, overly eager to please, or that he places his worth in someone else's perception rather than his own. The energy created by over-explaining is subtle but powerful, and it can completely shift the dynamic from one of intrigue and desire to one of tolerance and obligation. Attraction thrives on confidence and mystery, and excessive clarification erodes both. Over-explaining also dilutes the power of your presence and words. When you feel the need to justify yourself repeatedly, the weight of your statements diminishes. Simple actions, gestures, or decisions that could have carried authority and impact are weakened because they are accompanied by unnecessary rationalization. Women notice these patterns instinctively. They can sense the energy behind your words, whether it is firm and confident or hesitant and defensive. Over-explaining conveys a sense of neediness and a desire to control perception, which paradoxically makes you less attractive. On the other hand, a man who trusts himself, accepts the natural consequences of his actions, and communicates without excessive justification radiates certainty, which is profoundly magnetic. This does not mean being careless or dismissive. It means valuing your own judgment and integrity above constant validation, and understanding that your energy, decisions, and life path are inherently worthy. Another subtle aspect of over-explaining is how it impacts boundaries and respect. When a man feels the need to constantly explain himself, he implicitly allows others to question, challenge, or even manipulate him. By creating space for justification, he opens the door to negotiation over his choices and principles. Boundaries, which are essential for attraction and self-respect, are weakened when over-explanation becomes habitual. Confidence and clarity do not require defense. They exist as an undeniable energy that speaks for itself. By stopping the habit of over-explaining, a man communicates that he is in control of his life, secure in his decisions, and comfortable with who he is, regardless of external perception. This shift in energy changes the way women perceive him immediately, moving from a sense of obligation or caretaking to a sense of genuine respect and desire. Over-explaining also masks authenticity. When a man constantly justifies his words or actions, he becomes reactive rather than proactive, shaping himself to meet perceived expectations rather than living in alignment with his values. Authenticity, confidence, and presence are far more attractive than explanations. Women are drawn to men who act decisively, speak clearly, and live intentionally, because these behaviors signal strength and self-respect. The most magnetic men do not over-explain. They simply act, live, and allow their energy to communicate their worth. By stopping over-explanation, you reclaim your voice, your energy, and your power. And in doing so, you create the space for genuine attraction, curiosity, and respect to flourish naturally. One of the most overlooked aspects of attraction is the difference between being magnetic and being predictable, and yet it is one of the most powerful elements in any relationship. Predictability, especially when it comes from constant compliance, over accommodation, or excessive niceness, kills intrigue and diminishes desire. When a man becomes easy to read in every interaction, always agreeing, always showing up exactly as expected, he stops being interesting. Predictability creates comfort, and comfort, while safe and convenient, rarely fosters passion. Women, like anyone, are drawn to energy that challenges them, excites them, and keeps them guessing in the right ways. Being magnetic is not about manipulation or games. It is about embodying an energy that is vibrant, confident, and alive. It is about living intentionally, creating boundaries, and maintaining a sense of mystery that invites curiosity. The magnetic man does not rely on constant niceties or over-explanations. He relies on his presence, his decisions, and the unique way he engages with the world around him. This type of energy is not just noticed, it is felt, often unconsciously, and it creates a gravitational pull that no simple courtesy can replicate. Being magnetic requires a conscious effort to cultivate your life first. A man who has passions, goals, and personal standards naturally radiates energy that is attractive because it signals self-sufficiency and purpose. When your life is full, dynamic, and intentional, interactions with others are not about filling emptiness or seeking validation. They are about sharing energy and connection. Predictable men, on the other hand, often lack this depth. They define themselves by how pleasing they can be to someone else, which unintentionally diminishes their personal presence. A magnetic man is consistent yet surprising, consistent in his values and standards, but surprising in his creativity, perspective, and energy. He engages fully, speaks decisively, and maintains a life that is compelling independently of any romantic pursuit. Women are drawn to this because it communicates a man who is alive, grounded, and fully present in his own journey, and that energy cannot be manufactured through politeness or passive agreement. Another key element of magnetism is emotional tension in the right proportion. A man who is predictable in every detail eliminates subtle challenges that create attraction. Small doses of unpredictability, like pursuing your own goals unapologetically, expressing unique opinions, or maintaining independence in your choices, create curiosity and desire. Being magnetic is about balancing availability with autonomy, attention with independence, and affection with self-respect. Women instinctively notice when a man is grounded and self-directed. They sense that he is not dependent on their approval, and this creates intrigue. Predictability, by contrast, signals safety to the point of dullness, which may feel comfortable but rarely inspires genuine passion. Attraction thrives in the space where a person's energy is strong, authentic, and purpose-driven, not where it is molded by the expectations or desires of others. Magnetism also comes from emotional confidence, the ability to handle rejection, conflict, or uncertainty without losing your center. Predictable men often crumble under even minor challenges to their approval-based behavior because their self-worth is tied to validation. Magnetic men, however, maintain composure, energy, and presence regardless of external outcomes, which is inherently attractive. This kind of energy does not need to be explained, justified, or proven. It is simply experienced. Every choice, every action, and every interaction communicates a man's value without words, creating a natural pull that cannot be fabricated. Being magnetic is about living with integrity, pursuing your passions, maintaining boundaries, and embracing the energy that comes from being fully present in your own life. Predictability, in contrast, is a slow erosion of attraction, a flattening of energy, and a silent signal that the man's world revolves around accommodating others rather than leading himself.